Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Today we are going to talk about a preparedness hierarchy of needs. What do you need within the first few seconds of disaster striking, all the way up to what you might need 2, 3, 4, 10 years into a grid down post-collapse scenario. For this video, we're going to be expanding on the rule of threes as it pertains to survival. So let's talk about it. What do you need when seconds count? The 3-second rule. Well, the first thing you need is to get to safety. That can mean a variety of different things in different situations. That might mean escaping and evacuating a dangerous situation. It may come down to self-defense. Often the 3-second rule is referenced in terms of self-defense because that's how long it takes you to get shot in a gunfight. It could also mean that you have 3 seconds to acquire vital information that is going to tell you where you need to evacuate to. It could also mean that you only have a few seconds to physically get yourself out of an altercation, hence the importance of fitness. It could mean that you have 3 seconds to put out a fire or save somebody from a dangerous situation. A lot of the 3-second rule boils down to what are you doing preemptively to take care of your health so that you can ensure that in a time of crisis, you have what it physically takes to get yourself out of a situation, to fend off an attack, or even to lift somebody up and get them out of a crisis zone. What are the things that you need in a most immediate sense if we take a worst case scenario, like a war zone for instance? Well, some things you might want to consider are body armor or a plate carrier. In order to get body armor in Canada, it may require a purchase and acquisition license for firearms. This is going to vary by province. Make sure that you know the laws of your region. Just know that wearing a plate carrier like this may make you a target. If you want a more gray man solution, you might want to try standard body armor that you can put underneath your clothing. Or if you were in a literal war zone and you wanted to blend in, you could put press insignia across it in order to not stand out. Now, in terms of self-defense, you may need a firearm, like this shotgun that also makes a great versatile hunting tool, or this bolt-action hunting rifle chambered in .308, which is far more accurate, or this smaller bore .22 caliber rifle, which is easier to handle, it doesn't have as much recoil, and it's going to be great for those novice shooters. Or if times get really bad, you could bust out the semi-automatic. In Canada, all you need is a non-restricted license to get one of these. Just remember that just because it's a survival situation doesn't mean firearms etiquette and safety goes out the window. When seconds count, one of the most important commodities may be information. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? If you're in a burning building, this is going to be very obvious. However, if there's an attack on your country and the telecommunications are disrupted, you might need old school radios like this shortwave and this amateur radio. We go into great depth about this in our video on radios. When seconds count, a lot of it is going to come down to what did you do preemptively to prepare? Did you ensure that your gas tank was always over half full? Did you ensure that you had a bug out bag at the ready for you to use in a moment's notice? Do you have access to fire suppression equipment? Probably one of the most basic and practical preps that you can have at your disposal. These are all things that are going to matter when seconds count. What about when minutes count? What do you need in the first 3 minutes of survival? Well, of course, you need air. We as human beings require air that has 20% oxygen in it. And generally speaking, we can last 3 minutes without air. What does this mean in a survival and preparedness sense? If you find yourself in a burning building, if you find yourself in the presence of biological contaminants, chemical contaminants, nuclear fallout, what do you need to prevent the ingestion of those toxins? Well, you need safety equipment like this.
This is a full face respirator. Now, while the probability of you ever needing something like this is incredibly low, when you need it, you really do need it. In fact, we can only not have this for a few minutes before we die. This type of gas mask can protect you from everything, but the filter is going to make a difference. For example,
there are 3 general types of filters. You have your particle filter. This is going to work against things like dust, biological contaminants, smoke, tear gas, even nuclear fallout. This is a chemical filter and it has activated charcoal in it in addition to the filter that this one possesses, which is why it's that much bigger. This is going to protect you against the ingestion of dangerous chemicals and toxins. This last one contains what both of these have, but it also contains something which is going to neutralize carbon monoxide. So this is a carbon monoxide filter, also protects against all of the aforementioned. Some situations may require more precaution and a higher level of protection.
This is a hazmat suit. The only thing I'm missing is the butyl gloves. This is going to allow me protection from nuclear fallout, chemicals, and biological agents.
What do you need to survive in the first 3 hours? One of the most important things that comes up is 3 hours without shelter. If you can't keep your body temperature above 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, you will become hypothermic. The number one killer in survival situations is when people die of exposure, especially in the wintertime. One of the most important preps, especially up here in the north, is your clothing. Now, depending on where you live, you may not have to go this far in terms of your survival attire. But if you want tips on how to dress for cold weather, check out the video that we did on the topic right here. Generally speaking, in terms of keeping warm, nothing beats natural fibers. Now, if you live in a very hot climate where you're at risk of heat stroke, it may require you to dress differently. You may have to wear all white to reflect the sun's light. You may have to have a large hat to shade yourself from the sun's rays. Light breathable fabrics may also come in handy. When hours count, your attire is of utmost importance because that's the shelter that you wear on your back. There's a variety of alternative ways to keep yourself warm in the wintertime. You can use a wood stove and a hot tent. We've done many reviews of those as shown here. You can also use a good old tried and true military issue wool blanket. 90% wool, you can't go wrong. Incredibly versatile. If you're Rambo, you can even wear it as a cloak. Having some sort of fuel source for heating, like propane, combined with a space heater, like this Mr. Heater, will keep the life force from escaping your body. If you find yourself as a refugee, you're on the move, or you're in a survival situation, the ability to start a fire is going to be of utmost importance. Check out our tutorials on that here. Having fire starting materials at the ready, including an ignition source, is going to be of utmost importance. What do you need most in the first 3 days of a survival situation? Generally speaking, the rule of threes involves 3 days without water. Even though you could probably go a little bit longer, you don't want to push it past this point. I would also say that in the first 3 days, you need to be focused on things like medication and first aid. Most people can't go 3 days without medications. Another thing you need within this frame of time is sleep. Without sleep, you're going to hallucinate and you're going to start making bad decisions. And lastly, at this point, hygiene starts to become a problem. Without proper hygiene past this point, you run the risk of disease and pissing off the person that you're sharing a bunker with. What is the best way to purify water? One of the cheapest solutions is to get yourself some pool shock. This is basically powdered bleach, also known as calcium hypochlorite. All you have to do is mix a heaping teaspoon of this in with a couple liters of water, and you're going to get yourself a couple liters of bleach. You can then take a few tablespoons of that bleach per every gallon of water, and that is going to purify that water, killing any sorts of bacteria or viruses which might be present. At around $30 a bottle, this is one of the cheapest and most affordable ways to have a long-term water purification solution. The next best thing is a Berkey water filtration system, which is the gold standard when it comes to water filtration in a prepper's home. If you want a cheaper option while on the go, just get yourself a life straw. Chances are most places in North America are only going to require hollow fiber filtration to get the bacteria out. There's not a lot of viral threats in North American water sources, at least for the time being. Now, in terms of medications, check out Jace Medical if you want to get an emergency supply of your chronic medications without all the hassles of trying to tell your doctor that you're a prepper and you're preparing for the apocalypse. Jace Medical actually understands. You can also get your emergency supply of antibiotics, which will be of critical importance in preventing the spread of a dangerous infection. The 3-week rule. What do you need to survive 3 weeks? Generally speaking, 3 weeks without food. Now you can last a lot longer than that, but you're not going to be good for a whole lot after 3 weeks. The goal here is to prevent a calorie deficit, meaning that optimally you shouldn't be losing any weight. Now for some of us, the apocalypse might not be a bad thing in terms of the weight loss that it's going to force, but generally speaking, you want to try to maintain your body weight. And as such, you need to store food. We've done many videos on food storage in the past. One of the most affordable and cost-effective ways to do this is rice and beans in Mylar bags. That, however, does require some special tools and the Mylar bags themselves. If you didn't want to do that, you can simply go with canned food. A lot of food best by dates, as we've talked about in this video here, are not true expiration dates. And in fact, a lot of that food will last a lot longer, and they're not required by law to even put those things on there in the first place. The holy grails of preparedness food are MREs and freeze-dried food. Both have their pros and cons. Go and watch our video that talks about the difference between freeze-dried food and MREs. Generally speaking, this is going to last a lot longer. It's a little bit more expensive, and an MRE is great for a refugee bag or a bug-out bag because it has everything you need and is totally self-contained. With the freeze-dried food, you do just need to add water. And don't forget to add your vitamins and minerals. Even though a diet of rice and beans may keep you alive, it might not provide you the complete micronutrient profile that you need in order to survive. What do you need to survive 3 months? At 3 months' time, I've often heard that one of the most important things is going to be the need for rule of law and law and order, because at that point, chances are society is breaking down, crime is rampant, and you are just trying to keep all the stuff that you acquired. However, around this point, you're going to start to require other things like communications equipment. And in order to use that communications equipment, you're going to need power. So having a power system is a little bit lower on the priority list with respect to prepping. It's not water, it's not food, it's not something you need right away, but down the road, it's going to be highly beneficial. Other things you're going to want to consider for the 3-month window are things that you can use to trade and barter with. You may even want to consider precious metals like gold and silver, jewelry. Chances are at this point, unless you're a full-on doomsday prepper, you're going to start running out of supplies. Having things you can barter with like alcohol, toiletries, and over-the-counter medications are going to allow you to acquire the things that you might need under those circumstances. Another thing you're going to want to start thinking about at 3 months' time is how are you going to start to regenerate food? So this is a time when you're going to want to get those seeds in the ground if the season is right. For each of the items that I talk about within these designated time frames, be it 3 seconds to 3 months, I have my own preferences for the gear I use, and I'll post links to those in the description below. 300 days without resupply. Even the best preppers, even myself, with all the food that I have stockpiled, after 300 days, when I'm helping people out in the community, chances are I'm going to start running out of supplies. The ability to regenerate and produce food and other items that I might need is going to be tantamount. This is when homesteading skills becomes important, but this is not something you want to be worried about when you're just getting into preparedness. Nobody's going to learn how to be a farmer overnight, but if you start working your way up from 3 seconds to 3 minutes to 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, as you progress through these levels, you should develop the foundational skills required for you to have a self-reliant lifestyle. 3 years without an extended community. Now, this is one that I just made up. I was thinking to myself, what does a human being absolutely need at 3 years? And it got me thinking about that movie with Tom Hanks, Castaway, where he's on an island and ultimately he does need to communicate with people. I think that most people, if they were far removed from civilization, even if you just had your family members around, no family, no people, or no group is an island. And at that point, you need to be networking with surrounding communities. This is not only important for your safety, but also providing you with a greater sense of purpose, a greater meaning. And ultimately, the goal of all life is to procreate, which is why at 3 decades, that's when you have that generational turnaround. And I would say, in terms of the rule of threes, in 3 decades, the most important thing is procreation and finding a suitable mate. Let me know what you guys think about the 3-decade rule. What is the 3-century rule? Maybe a 3-millennial rule? Let's get really crazy with this. Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy this video. Canadian Prepper out.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.
This is a full face respirator.
This is a full face respirator.
This is a full face respirator. This is a full face respirator. This is a full face respirator. This is a full face respirator. This filter is a... do you need me to do that first part again, or...